to our very brave students who went on this great adventure with us to Peru. And today, during their presentations here, what they're going to be doing is presenting their research for the University 4000 class, and that class specifically. And we also did a build with the Fuller Center as a part of that. And then after that, please, everybody migrate over to the Fine Arts Building. We'll have a reception. We're doing all Peruvian food and coffee and works over there. And there they have an exhibition for second class that was taught, which was Ethics and International Photography. So 4 of these 6 students also took that class. So the projects that are in the gallery are about that. So you'll get to see kind of both tonight. So without further ado, the students and their projects. I did want to mention too, sorry, the faculty that taught this class, it was a collaborative effort between myself, I'm Tanya Buse, and Nellie, Jordanov. I didn't want to butcher it, but anyway, and then Chadwick Gunn. So thank you again for coming, and the students.
My name is Darren Brennan. I'm a photography major here at GSW. I went as a student for the Ethics and International Photojournalism class, and my focus was on housing in Peru. And we work in a town of San Vicente. It's a very remote, dry town. It's mostly migrant farm workers there in Peru, and the vast majority of them live in these shacks that are made out of woven reeds. They get there from the river, and the vast majority of them, there's temporary housing. They have dirt floors. They're not very clean or sanitary. They do have a lot of health issues that come from that, from trapping the dirt and dust, not having good ventilation. And it doesn't ever rain there. It does get cold sometimes. So that was one of the big problems that they have there, is when it does get cold, they're sticking anything they can in the massing out paper or cardboard or old signs or anything like that to try and keep the cold out. But what that does is it ends up trapping a lot of air in there, and so many of the children of those there stay very sick during the colder months. So that was one of the main reasons for the Fuller Center being there and starting to build houses. And you see that's the inside of one of them. It's just a dirt floor, and most they use just the woven reeds for to make the structure of the building, and then if there's anything that can be found, old signs or anything like that that can be used. And then this is overlooking the town there in the valley. You see it's very dry. It's right between the mountains and the ocean, so it almost never rains there. The only water that they have to speak of comes from the mountains. They use that for irrigation there at the farms. And then here you see that's at the Fuller Center office where we're starting out with the work. And one of the problems is with why they use the mats there is there's almost no infrastructure to speak of that's actually at the village. It's remote, it's real dry. There isn't really limited electricity, but other than that, it's always really there. There's no kind of power tools or heavy equipment or anything. So that was 3-wheel, 200cc Chinese-made moped. That was the heavy equipment that we had there to build a house with. So there's no, they have maybe a few dump trucks around, but that's what mostly carries everything. The black tank over on the left is what they use. They'll put water in it, or they'll put it in the back of the moped and then fill it full of water, and that's how they end up moving water around.
Can you darken the hall?
Say again?
Can you darken the hall and make the photos stand out?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
While he's doing that, if you guys have questions, if you'll just note them at the end while I'm doing that.
So with the lack of infrastructure, that's what large part of why they just use the woven reed matches, because that's what they have available and that's what they can use. And then as far as we had a portable cement mixer that for turning the cement, and that was basically it. But even with that, most of the time we didn't have anything that could actually tow it, so it ended up usually being pushed through the village and up the hill just by trying to haul it up there with 4 or 5 people. And that was used to mix with the cement, and that was all those just, they used dirt that they gathered there locally, and then they would take it and just shovel it through some metal mesh screen that filled out some of the rocks and some of the debris, and ended up with the dirt, and they mixed that with actual cement and some of the water they had, and that's what formed the actual structure of the house. And then the second problem with why housing there is part of they just have a lack of space to put the houses on. So that's where you see actually overlooking the village, most of that is taken up. And so many of the houses end up on the edges, kind of up on the hills and on the mountains and built into the sides of the hills. And so they don't put up there for the view, they put up there just because they have just a lack of space and don't have anywhere to put the house. So they'll end up just going kind of wherever they can fit them in at. And then that was one of the challenges with building it. You see, part of it was with the hill. We had to actually dig into part of the hillside and try to put in somewhat of a staircase to haul, because without any equipment up there, everything has to be hauled up by hand using wheelbarrows and buckets and shovels. So much of what the building process was just digging into the hill and then putting cement in the wheelbarrows and buckets and anything that could be moved, and then just taking all the time walking up and down the hill to get up to the build site. And then he's building the foundation for one of the Fuller Center houses. Because of a lot of the earthquakes in the area, they have to have it dig down into the ground to actually build the foundation. So what they'll do is they'll dig down and they'll go to the river and they'll haul out river rocks and carry them up there, and they'll dump in rocks from the river, and they just take them, and that's all moved by hand. They'll get them from the river, everything's just carried by hand up to the build site, and then it's all carried, and they'll dump it down into where the foundation's going, and then you're taking cement with your buckets and your wheelbarrows and just dumping it over that. So even with a team of 20 people that we had there, it still takes a very long time, especially for one foundation, because you're trying to haul every single one of those rocks up one at a time and then drop them into the hole, and then try to mix all your cement, pour it in the buckets and carry each bucket up one at a time, and then dump that in the hole with the rocks. And so it takes a very long time. So that's one of the major challenges with building there, is just the sheer amount of labor that it takes just to move material without any equipment there. And as you see, we're going up to one of the build sites, which is the bucket of cement. Those where, with the cement mixer down at the bottom of the hill, we could dump that into the wheelbarrows after mixing it, and then take the wheelbarrow halfway up, and then from the wheelbarrow shovel it into buckets, and then each bucket had to be carried further up the hill and then dumped in there. So even with we had a team of 20 of us there, 10 of us from here and 10 from College, Cincinnati, Ohio, and as well as all the Peruvian workers there. And even with 20 of us, it still took almost a whole week just to go from flat ground to digging it, getting rocks in, and then dumping the cement in. We're only about halfway through just with dumping the cement in, even after a week with all the people, just because of the lack of infrastructure and the lack of power tools. Whereas here we can just back a cement truck and dump it all in at once. But then here's one of the Fuller Center houses after it's been completed, and you can see where it's built out of. It's after the cement's been dumped in, all the columns have rebar in them that tie the main part of the structure. They tie it into the foundation, so when there is an earthquake, the whole house doesn't end up shifting too much and moving, because it's sitting on top of all the rock and concrete and it's tied in by the rebar. And then here you see inside with our group one of them, it's got a concrete floor, and that helps a lot with keeping dust down. And the biggest, one of the biggest differences between the two building styles is they have a peak roof there that allows the air to circulate in and out without, it doesn't trap, it allows the air to circulate without trapping any kind of dust or anything like that. And that was one of the issues they had there with the traditional Peruvian house. Has a flat roof there. It doesn't rain there hardly ever, so if they have a hole in the roof, it's never a big deal because there is never any rain to come through it. And so for them to go from a flat roof house to a peak roof house was something that they didn't initially understand or want to do, but after seeing how with the peak roof in the wintertime, they could close it up and still let the air circulate and let it in and out without trapping all the dust, so the children weren't getting sick nearly as much as they were with the green mat houses. So that's, after that, they ended up, the locals ended up taking more to the peak house, the full center house with the peak roof. And this is Monica. She's now, she's one of the locals there. She got a Fuller Center house, and now she works for the Fuller Center there. And so, this is mainly what the end result is, where they have a local that has gotten the house. Now she works for the Fuller Center and helps coordinate with the locals there in building more houses. And all the Peruvian builders there are locals that have received houses and been trained on how to build houses, and now for each person that receives a house, they're now building houses for other people so that they can have houses. And that's the goal for the Fuller Center, is to end up going from all the woven mat houses to eventually having the stable concrete house in this healthier for Peru. Are there any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Alright, hey, I'm Weinert. I am a business marketing and undeclared art major at the moment. I focus mostly on the environment of Peru, like the landscape, the waterways, what they do with it, essentially. Alright, what's out there? I know Peru is a big, scary place. It's completely on the other side of the hemisphere than we are. The place we stayed was very mountainous. It was a weird dry heat, not like the humidity out there, what's going to be out there tomorrow. Lucky for us, we were around enough standing water for mosquitoes to breed, so our legs were kind of polka dotted on the plane ride back. Right here, this was off the side of the road, and we got to see the Incan Highway, which I don't believe is in the shot. I just saw a little nice foliage and the mountains coming up. More than 60% of the Peruvian landscape is forest. The Andes basically start the Amazon River, I believe, and that flows all the way through Brazil and the Amazon forest, and is one of the most biodiverse regions in the world. Sadly, illegal logging and deforestation make up roughly 47% of the greenhouse gases produced by Peru, thus killing the environment and creating global warming, if you believe in that. We did get to raft down the river while we were there, which was a load of fun. It was Rio Caliente, or Caliente. My Spanish is still terrible even after taking all these years in classes. The river flowed next to a small town called Lunawana, which was a very popular, nice village, small houses, few churches, nice people. Most rivers come from the Andes Mountains, where the elevation is so high that it has glaciers, and the water runoff from the melting glaciers create rivers and flows into the ocean. We did get to see the Pacific Ocean, which was a way more violent ocean than the Atlantic Ocean, huge waves, so I guess that's why surfers love it. These pictures that I took do not give the mountains justice. When you were there, they were like they were straight out of a painting, just blending and immersing into the background. It was gorgeous. But the tallest range is the Huascarara, or Karen. Highest peak is 22,000 feet. and in the mountains housed the great civilization of the Incas, which conquered most of Peru. And the way they survived with little to no rainfall was simply amazing. The Incan Empire started in 1438 and ended in 1533. Although it only lasted 95 years, they did conquer a whole bunch of land in the region. They did love wars, but they're more diplomatic. Basically, they would go into another area or another tribe where other people had land, and they would get on the same level with them. Okay, you have your god, I have my god, they're both going to be on the same level, and we're going to be friends. Instead of just killing all of them and taking over their land. This was our tour guide when we got to see Inca Casa, which held Incans like armies. I still think he looks like an Incan cowboy. He was really hilarious. Right now, the farmers, as he said, they farm in the valleys because the soil on the mountains are too dry. They have a rich mix of minerals. They have the largest gold mine in the world. And tourism is a huge industry in Peru, from the Nazca lines to the Incan ruins to sandy beaches. It's a beautiful place to go. Some of the smaller rivers are used for rafting trips and tourism and I guess local fishing. Larger rivers, they dam up and have hydroelectric plants providing power to the area. And rivers also mean water, which means life for crops. So you can actually grow food instead of trying to grow a plant in the desert. It's not going to work out for you. Peru is on the coast of the Pacific Ocean. They recently just got granted a whole bunch of fishing rights for the coast from Chile, which is one of the richest known fishing grounds known to man and some known to dolphin. It was an argument over 14,000 square miles, and I guess they're happy. There's many disputes over it now, thinking that only the rich will prosper, but that's just social issues, and maybe they'll play themselves out peacefully. The lumber industry is very important in Peru, since over half of the area is forest, although there is a whole bunch of corruption in that industry currently. Most of the exporters, or they export much mahogany to the United States, which is actually illegal in Peru because it's really scarce, and they have to go really far to get it. And even though proper documentation is necessary for transporting lumber through rivers, most officials don't really care because they're getting paid on the side. Even check. Overall, oil is very expensive there. They buy by the liter, it's not the gallon. And I thought that was a huge change from here, where you can get a gallon for maybe $4. You can get a liter for, I forgot how much, but it was not as cheap as here. They have much smaller cars for this reason. When traveling around Lima, I saw a lot of Volkswagen Beetles, and their driving is just insane. They like this little go-karts going down the freeway. Makes for a very interesting taxi experience. And this was a lovely little house on the beach right next to a big mountain. once I decided to use it for my works cited page, because it's a pretty picture. That's it.
Hi, my name is Casey Daniel. I'm a fine arts major, and I decided to do the culture of Peru with some myths and legends. So most of my slides are full of stories, and I have a couple videos and also things that we saw about in Peru. Peru culture. The culture is based on a lot of generations and cultures. While I was there, one few I originally thought it was Indian culture. When we were there, we talked to one of the Peru leaders, Weinert, and he said that most of the people there, they don't really know their culture as much. But you still see a lot of them around, even though just love the biggest culture everywhere. As in every culture, there are stories, and these are very precious to people. They're myths and legends. These are told that they give things meaning, and it's just how we kind of identify things. So it's told throughout generations, and it just becomes a tradition. So it's a lot of the notes there that you hear, the kind of things that you can find, and if you actually look at the notes, you can see that they have a story to be told, and they explain something or what's warned about something. One thing I thought interesting was that I found different is that Inca was actually one of the last cultures in Peru. The first one was called El Horacio in Chavin, and there was another culture that was just generically named Uma, and then there was Bali, Chankay, and then Inca for last. This is out throughout a few centuries, so it wasn't just a one-time thing, it's from BC. But these are the cultures that are found generally in Lima, Peru, who stayed in for a day and so. Okay. Well, in Peru one night, we watched a video that Zeno provided, and it was a little bit about the culture. It was something that I thought was pretty interesting. It was those places where there are Nazca lines, and these are lines that are drawn into the earth and were created and extended through decades, and most of them depict animals and just geometric symbols that are found in the desert. I have a video here that explains this video.
Early Nazca geoglyphs were often formed in the shapes of deities and animals. But several centuries later, they were building much larger, more geometric shapes. Regardless of shape, their construction was simple but effective. Using rudimentary surveying techniques, specialists marked up the geoglyphs with wooden poles and cotton string. While they plotted out the figure's shape, workers cleared stones.
As you can see here, the soil is covered by these dark stones, and below you find a very light silt. And if you remove the dark stones, you will have a line.
Villagers piled discarded stones along the sides. This border helped shield the lines from the wind, and the arid desert climate did the rest, preserving them through the centuries.
I mainly want to provide this video to you because this video was actually a video that we watched right in our camp. And I just thought it was interesting because it's something that I didn't know when I went there, and I found out about designs. And it's just something that people were really proud of. As I was saying earlier, it's sort of a lost culture. It's not many people they don't know about the Indian culture, they don't speak the language anymore. But all around Peru, there's all these sites. This here was one of the sites that we visited for a while, and it was just really amazing. It was very cheap to go into and visit, and it's something that, unlike in America where we have museums that are extremely protected, it's just everywhere here, and it's just something that you can walk around and see. Another thing about Peru that I found interesting is the song and dance. You can see in the culture by just the clothes they wear, the songs they were singing, and just the objects they were holding in their hands. So we saw some really beautiful dances already there, and I just kind of wanted to show you some of them. This is two of the pictures I took of one of the dances we saw. I learned later on it was called Shakish de Chupaca. And this was actually a really, when I was there I heard it, I couldn't understand the language, no Spanish, and until I Spanish, so I just mainly looked and watched it. It was a very beautiful dance when we saw it, but then later on I researched it, and I found out that it's actually a war dance, and that the dance for the city of Chicago. And in this city, it's called a road city, because a bunch of villagers, they actually fought against the Chilean forces. So that's why in the video they have the fruit baskets, and it's just, they have a bunch of things on them showing the different villagers that fought in this war. So, another video. This is another dance that we saw over there, and it was called Mirandera Nortena. Sorry, I don't pronounce that wrong. This dance was really interesting to watch, and when I researched it, I found out that they use a lot of different cultures on mixed in with this dance. It's a mixture of African, Spanish, and Indian. When I saw it, you could see the different, like the clothing, the hats, the way they dance. It's so many different cultures mixed in. This dance is mainly found on the coast of Peru. It's where people mainly dance at. And it's mainly a couples dance. And as you can see in the picture, they use handkerchiefs. They would take the handkerchiefs and they spin them in the air. And at first the men would have it, and later on the women would have it on the handkerchief. So they kind of share it between the two. This dance is based on the founding of the Peruvian Independence in 1821. And this dance is just a celebration dance. personality. I have a brief video about the saints also.
Porque el norte tiene lo suyo y lo comparte con orgullo. Marineras, señores, y esas palmas peruanas para nuestro baile nacional. Sa, 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 sa.
Since I also did myths and legends, I have some myths and legends here that I found. I didn't even want to talk about this while in Peru, but it was things that I did find out by researching about Peru before I went. This particular myth is about, it's called the Princess and the Lagoon. It's located in Ica, Peru, and the lagoon is called Huacachina. I'm guessing I have that pronunciation. But the story goes that a princess, Prince died, and she went to the edge of this, basically deep, setting, and she cried into her tears from the lagoon. And while she was crying, an evil spirit jumped out of the lake, grabbed her by the ankles, and pulled her in and drowned her. So now for revenge, whoever swims in this lake, she will kill. So it's basically a warning telling you not to swim in this lake, because of Princess Queen. Another one I found out was called the Witches of Cachichi. It's located in Cachichi, Peru. And the story behind this is that there was witches, and every season they would sacrifice one of their own. And one time they found a witch who they planned to sacrifice, and she didn't want to die, so she ran away. The others were upset by this, so they created a magical lasso, all of them did, and they tried to capture her. And each time they hit the lasso, a palm tree formed, and each palm tree would grow a head. So eventually it grew into 7 heads. And when she fell on the 7th head, because it broke, it was too thin, she caused a palm tree. And if the palm tree ever grows the 7th head, then the land will flood. And so now, if it ever grows after the 7th head, they try to cut it down, because once they didn't cut it down, and the land did flood. So since then, they've been extremely cautious. So it's sort of this is more, I guess, of a warning instead of, it's just more a warning to keep it from growing. So it's very, I thought it was just very interesting. Since we were staying in sort of the rural town of Peru, I looked for this one here, and it was a rural myth. In this myth, there's a black hole, and if it lands on a house or roof and sings, then someone in the house will eventually die. So this ball is sort of like a good nipple. And this ball is described as being extremely hideous. It's really large, and it has bulging eyes, and it's described as sort of a probe, but a very, very large and very, very scary looking probe. So luckily Ryan Peru didn't see any of these ones. This last one is called, not last one, this other one here is called The Creation of Humans. And it was from the Valley of Oaxaca, I guess. And there's two creatures called Ammons, and there was this lake where they were fighting in, and a tempest was sent down by the gods. And the gods were mad because they were fighting in the lake, so they shot down this lightning and it killed the creatures. Soon after, when they died, humans who were hiding underneath the lake emerged from in the lake. And when the two creatures died, they flooded the lake, or flooded it so the humans were able to come out from the ground. So now we also believe that one of the Ammons didn't die and that it lives in a cave. So whenever it's lightning and thunder, that's the Ammon trying to escape from the cave, and the God is sitting down lightning to keep it in check. And the thunder is just the anger from the creature. This one I thought was kind of funny. It's a fire-breathing cow. And this cow ran into the village. The town people, they paid it in basically got a rage. They paid him a really high price needing to feed the cow. But the cow didn't die, it just went into the cave to hide. Went into the mountain to hide. So now they won't go too far from the mountain for fear that the cow will kill them. So a lot of these myths have kind of a hidden meaning to them. A cow who breathes fire across the volcano, or the lightning and thunder will be the creatures. So each myth that they create was usually a hidden meaning behind it that explains something about the world they live in. This other one was called the River of Gold. In this river, there was a young farmer, and he was very happy, young and very sweet farmer. And one day he was trying to catch fish, and there was a long fish in the river, but he missed. When it swam away, he saw a pool with a gold dripping from its mouth. He picked up the gold nuggets that fell from the mouth and tried to walk away, but the storm raged up, and it forced him to put the gold back into the river because he couldn't move the bottle with that much gold in his hand like that first the storm. When the storm died away, when he put the gold back in the river, he realized that you can't take the gold from the river. So he left, and he was a happy man, so he didn't care much about it. But it's just a lesson that everybody knows now is not to take the gold from the river. This other myth is called the Shepherd and the Daughter of the Sun. This one here, it was a daughter of the sun, and she met a shepherd one day. It was, they basically, God says, and the sun was the God. She fell in love with the shepherd, but it was forbidden to fall in love with a human. So the shepherd had underneath the cloak one day, and when the daughter came to go look at the shepherd, she saw his mother, and the mother had the cloak on the bed, and she said, "I'll like that cloak." She took the cloak with her, and the shepherd turned into the cloak, which picked him up. So, I'm sorry. So later on that night, she put the cloak down, and the shepherd turned back into a man. So whenever they were alone, he turned into a man, and when they were with others, he turned into a cloak. One day, they would discover that the cloak was actually a man, so they ran away. And then they farther, and when they were in the town of Palka, they both turned to stone. So this is believed that they believe that the stone is still around. So you see the stone, then it is the shepherd and the sun girls. Okay, that's it. is Ava Joiner, and I'm a sophomore, and I am a photography major. I wanted to go on this trip because honestly, who wouldn't? It was a chance to get credit for a course and be able to help people who are less privileged than yourself. And it was truly an amazing experience. You don't know how truly blessed and privileged you are until you go somewhere and you can see it on TV all you want, but when you finally see it in person, it really makes a difference. Okay, here's some statistics about Peru. You have the dependency ratio, literacy, and urbanization. While I was there, my main focus for University 4000 studied the education system of Peru. There are 4 programs that are mainly used and offered to Peruvian children as well as adults. Kind of like their Board of Education is the Ministry of Education. It was established in 1866. A lot of it is government provided. And it helps create ways for both urban and rural children to receive necessary skills and lessons. In Peru, usually a child will begin school at the age of 5 and be out by the age of 16. The 4 programs that were offered were basic and initial education, primary education, secondary, and higher education. Basic through primary are mandatory, but afterwards, if you're done, then you don't have to go back. And that was the big difference between urban cities and rural villages. A lot of times, the kids would take their mandatory years in the urban places, and then they would be needed home, to help keep the household running. So children raised in Lima or in big cities generally have more accessibility to education, more better supplies for it. Okay, basic and initial education is 3 to 5 years old. It's first offered in nurseries and non-school-wide programs that are specifically made for children in rural and marginal rural areas. And it's mandatory. So while we were in San Vicente, it was nice because as we were headed to the work site, you could see the children, all in their little uniforms, and they'd be going off to school as we were going to work. So it was nice to see it. In America, we have so many different types of schools. We have private schools, public schools, boarding schools, we have colleges, we have so much of it that we can have, but and especially in rural areas, it's really a struggle to provide a good education for their children. Peru is predominantly Roman Catholic, so there are a lot of Catholic schools and there are public schools and some colleges. But other than that, it might be a little hard for them to really get a good education. Primary education. This program lasts 6 years and it's in 3 cycles. The first cycle is 1st through 2nd grade, the second is 3rd through 4th, and the third is 5th through 6th. And to pass in primary school, students are evaluated through a mark system. They must receive 11 out of 20 points as well as pass either language or mathematics. So you have to pass both of those. But you only have to pass the order there. Secondary education, this program is divided into 2 cycles. The first cycle lasts 2 years and it applies to all pupils, and the second lasts for 3 and is provided to adolescents as well as adults. Okay, then you go on to your higher education. So this is all for free will, so you technically don't have to go. Institutes and universities fall into this category. It offers diplomas and certificates for professional careers, as well as teaching and training technical programs. These courses last no less than 4 and then more than 10 academic semesters. And the central government doesn't get involved as universities have autonomy. It was really different. Obviously, kids in rural areas don't have as much of an option to go. So they are making some advances trying to spread education to more rural countryside. Fe y Alegría, which is Faith and Joy, it's a private nonprofit organization for integrated education in Central and South America following a Jesuit curriculum. It was launched in the 70s and in marginal rural areas and work directly with the Peruvian government. So here's a map showing all the different locations that they've built these schools, which is really good. And so they've been making a lot of progress with that. And this is also a program called One Laptop Per Child. It's funny, I saw commercials for these, but I didn't really put two and two together, so it was neat to come back and realize what it was. It's a nonprofit organization offering inexpensive laptops to schools in developing countries. So you go to the store, and if you saw one, it's kind of like the Tom's Shoes franchise. You buy one, and another kid in the country who needs it gets one, which I thought was really great. So Peru was one of the first countries to try and prototype out the XO model nationwide in June 2007. So see the little classrooms, and each kid has a laptop, and that gives them more accessibility to education, which is really great. This little girl in the top right-hand corner, her name was Grace. She was the daughter of the mayor of a local town, and every time we would go out on our tourist day, she would go with us, and she was so much fun. And she's in her little uniform for school. She just got back after we got done working. We asked her, like, Grace, did you have fun at school today? No. What did you learn at school today? Nothing. Do you have fun at school? Yeah. So, this is also another little girl in San Vicente. She's walking home from school. And they're really big into uniforms there. So this is while we were in town, just some billboards, talking about education and how it was provided and that it was available. And this is also a brother and sister that we saw in San Vicente after school, so we went to the work site. It's funny, you don't really realize how much USA has commercial influence, that you go and you find Angry Bird backpacks and Coca-Cola everywhere. But it was a really great trip, and I feel really blessed to have gone, and I'm thankful I had the opportunity. So thank you very much.
So, hi, my name is Erin Quinn, and I'm also a sophomore in photography/glassblowing major. I haven't really decided yet, or some kind of merge. So, while in Peru, I studied the hygiene and the MINSA, M-I-N-S-A. They try and monitor the hygiene that's going on in Peru, and they're developing new systems that they can try to involve kids into learning hygiene and what they should and what they shouldn't be doing, and trying to get houses to have running water or not burning their trash with plastic in it. The water in Peru, we had water that ran from the glaciers, I believe, into a big holding tank, and then it was boiled, and then that's what we had. But people there aren't very lucky, or they might not be. 28% of the children there can get diarrhea and skin diseases from the drinking water, or from not having hygienic bathroom conditions. I have a little video that shows some volunteers coming up, and they show the children what they should be doing.
No solamente nos apoya con sus conocimientos, sino lo importante es que están dejando hábitos en los niños. Uno es el hábito de higiene, ¿no? La limpieza en los niños. Y diario ellos tienen que lavarse las manos, los dientes, entonces ellos nos dejan hábitos, y los niños ya están grabándose ya de por sí. Cuando no hay grupos, los niños igual continúan. continúan con su lavado de manos, echar crema, y también para mí es un reconocimiento de los materiales que nos dejan, de mucha importancia, puesto de que acá los padres de familia no tienen mucha economía y no mandan, ¿no?, los materiales que uno necesita.
What the society down there is trying to get the families to understand, because even if they're learning hygienic properties at school, they're still not practicing them at home because their parents don't really find that it's, or at least most of them don't find that it's important yet. With the children who are suffering from diarrhea, they get episodes that can last up to 15 days, and then they'll get dehydrated, and they're getting sick from drinking the water, and they're getting dehydrated from drinking the water. Here are just some pictures of the volunteers that have come down and teaching the little kids how to wash their hands after they eat and before they eat. Kids look so confused. But, the restrooms, our restrooms were quite nice, but some of the restrooms that are in the homes or that they use, the work site that we were at didn't have running water, so if you had to go, you had to run down the hill to the office. But not having good hygienic water and then having to use a bathroom like this, you can see like how there would be diseases around, and then their doctor facilities aren't the most friendliest. So food, one of their high cuisine foods is guinea pig, which they will raise in conditions where they're running around their own feces and not very hygienic. This is actually a picture of a guinea pig. One girl that we were at, her name is Giga. She actually ordered one. It was quite expensive, but she said it tastes like chicken. And she actually enjoyed it very much. So she at least didn't get sick, so happy for that. They also hold their grain or animals in very close, tight conditions in the inner cities, which then can lead to rampant disease spread, and which then gets transferred to the meat if they're not cooking it properly, or then they're washing it in water that they haven't cleaned. Okay, so this was the kitchen that was used to cook our food, and it was actually pretty nice. The main food that we had a lot of salad and rice and chicken type meats. This was the town that we were working in. This was a house that was in between our campsite and the town, and the garbage that was piling up next door. And the morning smog over, I'm not quite sure what city was next to our campsite, but there was also smog in Lima the morning we woke up. And then there were fruit trees all over our campsite, and this was just one that I found. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's interesting. Fish. They left their seafood. We went to like kind of like a Walmart, and they left their seafood all out. Some of it didn't have ice under it, and then the chef, I was watching him cut the seafood up, and he wasn't cleaning his blade in between cutting different fish. So if you get one bad fish in there that's got a disease, all the fish that you're cutting are going to sick. I actually got sick from the water down there, or from something that I got, so I was able to experience the life of living in. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tim Ammons. I'm obviously a non-traditional student. I'm a little bit older than the rest of these guys. I'd like to thank Dr. Spender for introducing me to this program last semester and encouraging me to sign up for it. Peru has always been on my bucket list, and this is a great way to travel there and give a little bit back as well. And thanks to the gentleman from Fuller Center for making the program available. You have to bear with me, I'm suffering from a sinus infection right now, so I'm a little froggy and I'll be coughing a lot, so just bear with me. And one preface before we get into my slideshow. All semester long, we got to hear about Tanya's wish of wanting to ride a llama while we're there, so just keep that in mind when you go through my slideshow here. Basically, my presentation is just a general overall comparison of what we know of homes here in the U.S. and gives you a kind of a view of what homes are like there in Peru, which Darren has already hit on. I'll just go in a little more detail. So I'm going to try to come around here where I can see my own statistics here. As of 2010, the population of Peru was a little over 29 million. 8 million of these people live in rural areas. 70% of the rural population live in homes with dirt floors. You've got, of the rural population, 90% of those homes are not considered permanent. These homes are basically made from anything that they can scrounge. The woven mats, the reed mats are readily available. That's just a material that's easy to come by. It's, you gather it, you don't have to pay anything for it. But anything, scrap tin, scrap lumber, anything they can scratch together to make a temporary structure, that's what they live in. Obviously, when you live in a reed home, you really have very little privacy. You've got, no running water, no bathrooms. It's not very secure, and it's temporary. And here's some good examples of these homes. As you can see, they're just kind of, put together. You might have a few mats down on the floor. Whatever way you can possibly get it together and to make a little, roof over your head, essentially. These are some of the homes we saw while we were down there. And like I said, these guys have some tarps, they might stack some stones, whatever they can get their hands on. This is an example of Fuller Center homes. As you can see, they're brick and masonry construction. Gives you much what we consider a home, a more traditional style home. These are permanent structures, and as per Peruvian code, these actually have to be anti-seismic because it's a heavily seismic area. So they are built with concrete, reinforced rebar concrete. These homes give you a better security, better privacy, a better sense of home, really. And the Fuller Center homes are about 646 square feet. They're actually a little bit larger than most of the little thatch homes that we saw down there. And instead of just kind of being one big room that might be, sectioned off with a blanket or something like that, at least they have, private bedrooms and a little kitchen area, a living area. Definitely a huge improvement over a straw home, basically. So these photos here kind of give you an idea, or kind of give you a comparison of between the Fuller Center homes, ones that we built, and what the rest of the town pretty much lives in. There's I'm not sure the exact numbers of how many homes have been built so far, but it's definitely a stark contrast. You can see when you're viewing the town, you can see the homes that the Fuller Center built, and then everything else is this. There's really, nothing in between. So there's Tanya carrying concrete, As Darren hit on, basically the 3 homes that we were working on while we were there, we were building the foundations for them. So these really large rocks, which that very big one there, I personally moved up the hill. We were all carrying rocks, we were all carrying bricks, we were carrying concrete, in buckets on our shoulders uphill. It's all extreme manual labor. It was a really good wake-up call that I need to work out much more than I did. But it was a great experience, and we got to put 3 families closer to having homes that they didn't have before, or more permanent homes. Here's more photos from the construction site. Once again, this is that hill that we all loved by the end of our trip. It's a little hard to tell here, but basically those big rocks and that concrete we were carrying, I'd say roughly about 60 feet linear distance, but it was about a 40, 50 feet elevation change. So the elevation change is what really kicks butt. You're basically carrying all that weight on your tiptoes all the way to the top. And it was just rinse and repeat over and over and over.
Mr. Ammons, why are they actually building houses up the hill and why not in the flat region?
The valley area there, basically all the land has already been purchased. It's already, either temporary homes, the little thatched homes, or on the land, and the land's just not available. So the only land that's really available now is going up these hillsides. So it's essentially this is what's left. And so they're getting higher up the hillside and further away from the center of town. On the left here, you can see that's us mixing concrete. You can get a good shot of the rebar. That rebar goes all the way down to the base of the foundation. It's about 3 feet down in the ground. And essentially what we do is build a foundation with the rebar in it. Once the foundation with the concrete walls built up about a couple of feet above elevation, that's let to cure. And then the walls are bricked up, and after the walls are bricked up, the gap in between where the rebar is, all of that is framed out, and then that's poured with concrete. So the concrete beam really locks in the brick wall. It kind of all becomes a central piece to each other, and that keeps the walls from collapsing whenever there's any type of seismic activity. So, in comparison, as our American homes, it varies depending on the region in the U.S., but predominantly down here, in the majority in the U.S., all homes are stick-built. Doesn't matter if it's brick, stucco, whatever. The frame of the house is, built out of 2x4s and 2x10s and whatnot. It's all wood. The current average home size in the U.S. now is 2,300 square feet. And average apartment size is 982 square feet, which is our average apartment size is 50% more square footage than the homes that we're building for the people down in Peru. We have about 314 million people in the U.S. I try to compare, I guess you'd say the rural or people that were, poverty-stricken housing to what, the same improved versus the U.S. The problem with that is basically anybody in the U.S., even if it's substandard housing, still has running water. They still have, a toilet that flushes. You still have a roof over your head. It's still a more permanent structure than what people in Peru have. So really the only thing I could equate it to was basically the homeless that we have here in the U.S., which, as you can see, that's a really large number. You'll see later on the slide, though, that based upon our actual population number is actually a very small percentage. And this kind of gives you an example of what I was talking about, the stick-built homes. So, like I said here, you could stucco it, you could brick it, you could put vinyl siding on the side. It doesn't matter, the core of homes here in the U.S. are all built the same. This gives you a historical view of how much the homes in the U.S. have grown since the mid of the century. 1950, the average home was 1,000 square feet. Here we are, 2000, we're at about 2,300 square feet. Is the average home size, and they just keep getting bigger. Americans have the actual largest homes in the world. Just gives you an example of some of the home sizes around the world. And as you can see, we are kings of space. We're going to have our media rooms and our, big bedrooms and whatnot. So in summary, basically, as you can see, 25% or approximately 7 million of the Peruvians live in homes not considered permanent. The homeless in the U.S. only account for 0.005% of our total population. So while that is still, like I said, a large number, that basically shows, our society versus their society, even though those people, we still need to get homes for those people. The majority of Americans are far, far better off than people down in Peru and in a lot of parts of the world. We're very fortunate here. And Peru is a very heavily seismic area, so the homes of the flow center is designed and are building, they're anti-seismic. They're going to keep these homes, fall in the next time they have an earthquake. In Chile just had a 8.2. And we actually experienced an earthquake as soon as we got there. The very first night that we were in Peru, we were sitting in a hotel. I was personally on the 8th floor. And about 5:30 in the morning, I thought somebody was waking me up because my whole bed was shaking. So, but it was only a 6.2, yeah. Which seemed like a big number, but everybody there seemed like it was not a big deal. It was just normal, so it was interesting for us though. And the flow center homes are giving these people it seemed to me that it was giving more of a sense of home, something to be proud of, something that they call their own. Because it's a permanent structure. It's not just woven mats. And you definitely sense their pride and ownership of having this home, something that they didn't have before. And there's Tanya, Ron Ammons. That's it. Thank you.
So now, do you guys have any questions for our fabulous panel here? Phil, I also, as I understood it, they have to own their land to have a Fuller Center house built on it. Is that correct, Councilman Fuller?
Yes.
So that's where the ownership comes in. There was one house that saw Monica's that you showed a slide of. Her house was down in the valley, but it's part of the issue. They have to own their land before it can be built on.
Hers was built on her father's land.
Yes, but it ended up being first in that. Question? I have some, yes.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So we learned a lot about Peru from this presentation, but I wanted to hear from whoever was brave enough to talk. How, if you did, has the trip impacted you? Whether it's maybe some way that you view the world differently, maybe the way that you feel like maybe you're a little different person now. If it did, you don't have to admit or something. But I'd be interested to hear that.
I feel like it really affected me.
Ava,
Do I need a mic? Oh, I'm sorry. Hello? Okay. I think it really changed my whole outlook on things because, like I said, you see stuff on TV and you're like, oh man, that's awful. But when you go and you see it firsthand, you really don't understand how much you need to be thankful for. And they live in reed houses. Half of them don't have running water, but they're some of the happiest people. And it just really touches your heart. And all the children were so sweet. The last day we were there, we were all given a certificate by the Fuller Center. And each time they would call our name as individuals, a little child would give it to us, and they'd hug our neck and they'd kiss us on the cheek, and everybody in the town was so nice. And it's just, wow, I'm really blessed And I mean, I'll never forget it, and I'd do it again. I mean, it was amazing, so. Thank you.
I think I would like to say something, but they might not realize it yet, but they all came changed from many points of view. They learn what it means to really work hard under my instruction. They really learn what it means to be tired from working and just want to go to bed and sleep, and you don't care about anything else because you've done something and you see the result like next morning. The foundations are dry and we build more. They learn to appreciate and to value what they see, which is different than in America. Anyway, we went in Peru was so colorful and interesting, yet very different. Not the same sanitation, the food was different, everything, the cars, they run fast, crazy. But I think they all will save this in the end, and over the years they will remember. They might not realize it, but they came changed, and they know it from just the difference between what they have and what they saw, and how life could be different, and how happy or not happy you could be, but it doesn't really measure into what physical objects you own. It's just how you live your life. So although again, they worked really hard, don't forget this part.
At one point, we're passing big boulders all the way up, and one of them, I think it was you, Tim, said to me as we're passing them, he said, "Wait a minute, I thought I was going to college to avoid this kind of work." I have, Casey, one of the things you didn't talk about was, can you explain, because there's all kinds of rumors about the NASCAR lines. Can you explain what they decided the purpose of those lines were?
Okay, some of the rumors was that it's a crop circle made by aliens. And eventually they decided there was actually a culture who created these lines as basically a symbol for the gods, and they would create these lines here, and all of them, like all the people in the village, they would create these lines, and it was just a way to kind of worship the deities, and they would have like open rituals in the line. So it was just a more religious thing, and it was created by them. So it was more in the video we saw, they had they showed that since it's such a dehydrated place, since it's such a dry place, some people will get dehydrated while making the video or making the lines, and they would just have the religious ceremonies on the line, so they created their own place of worship.
And if you guys don't have questions, I would like to ask each one of them to say, like in one sentence, what was the best experience that they took home? Who's that?
We didn't prepare them for this.
Yeah, no.
That's a good one. That would be hard to say. I think the overall best thing for me was, like I said, just walking away knowing that even though, we weren't there to put the finishing touches on the houses, that, we were building the foundation. We were, really essentially, for lack of a better term, building the foundation of the house, for these three families, that's going to be a home that they're going to get to live in, and something they get to call home. So it's nice walking away and knowing that, that we did that we helped out in whatever way we could.
Our first or second night there, we met a young boy named Angel, and Ava and I got to have the experience of teaching him how to play the basketball game horse. when we don't know Spanish and he didn't know English. And it was an amazing experience to be able to connect with somebody without knowing their language and still be able to teach them a game and being able to play with them. And he ended up, okay, and it was just, I've never learned Spanish, and it was just amazing to be able to connect with one of the Peruvian guys there and be able to teach him how to play horse, which he says that he will now teach all of his friends, and we'll play it together.
I think for me it was just the people and the entire experience. I agree with both Erin and Tim. It was, you felt good about yourself after you were able to help somebody. I mean, these people worked from sunup to sundown when we would have a break, because this was their home. This is where they were gonna, have their children live, and they were really serious about it, but they were so thankful and very sweet. But Angel mentioned Angel, and I have very little Spanish skill, and he has very little English skill. So we were kind of just trying to talk to each other, and it was really great. So he had told me, because the camp that we stayed at was a Christian camp, Palabra de la Vida, which is the word of life, and he had recently been saved. And so he told me his testimony, and right before we left, he wrote me a letter telling me his testimony, and he gave me 2 pictures of him with his parents who had passed away. Those were his pictures, and he gave them to me. So I don't know, I'm sounding like I'm about to cry, but it was really a life-changing experience, and it was amazing, so I wouldn't change it for the world.
For me, I've never been out of the country before, so I was very nervous and scared. But when I went there, everybody was just extremely nice and really happy. No matter where you went, they would be smiling to you. They were just glad to see us. And it's something I'm not really used to in America, is having to go somewhere and see people happy to see you. So for me, that was the strangest thing, and it was just really amazing to have people happy to be around other people. So, and the whole place just seemed happy to me, and the houses and everything was colorful and bright, and it was just amazing.
I just really love to see the landscape, just completely different than the plains that we see outside of Americas. There's actually mountains, actual rivers, and it's interesting to see another society moving toward the other side of the globe. And seeing the toilet flush the opposite way was actually pretty interesting.
I enjoyed meeting the people and being able to go somewhere completely different, and it was completely opposite cultural-wise to see how similar we were to each other as far as our group and as far as people that lived there. But as far as having the doing just many of the things out there was going to work or going to school or fixing a flat tire or trying to get a cement mixer that's not working to work right. Be able to meet with all the people and share the same experiences with them, and realize that regardless of where you are or where, what kind of culture or country you live in, whether wealthy or less wealthy or having resources or not having many resources, that many of the same people have many of the same struggles and the same problems and enjoy the same things about life. And that's something I enjoy too very much.
I did say too, and I'm sure that Chadwick and Ellie can attest to this as well, our students made us proud. There was another group of students down there from the University of Cincinnati. Our students worked circles around them. They took twice as many breaks as our students did. They were a wonderful group. So thanks to the students. Now see it again, don't run away. Instead, go to the Fine Arts Building. Have a snack. We have Peruvian food that will be waiting for you at 6 o'clock. See the exhibition that the students have done and put together, and learn more about some of their experiences and research. Thank you.